Good morning, church. I'm gonna tell y'all a secret. I'm always nervous. If you're not a little nervous, it's not important enough to you, my dad used to say. So, good morning and happy Easter, Leander. It is a privilege and honor to stand before you on this Sunday, this Resurrection Sunday, and I know that every Sunday is Resurrection Sunday around here, but I think it's appropriate given that the world's eyes and hearts are fixated on the historic event of which we're gathered for here today, that Christians the world over are gathered in reverence and celebration and in hope. It's fitting that we take some time in consideration today. After all, the resurrection, a scholar said, is when hope came forward from the future into the present and surprised the world in person. I will say that one more time because it took me a second to wrap my brain around it, okay? We're just getting started. That the resurrection is when hope came forward from the future into the present and surprised the world in person. And be that as it may, it is also a strange time in our world today. Is it strange out there? A little tense out there? That might be a really mild, nice way of putting it. But for all the tension that is out there, I find myself feeling a little bit more than blessed this morning for more reasons than one. I feel myself blessed because I'm on the heels of some incredible conversations with friends who have added a lift to my spirit this week coming before this Sunday, and they've added some valuable flavor to even the conversation I'm looking to have with you this morning. There's a principle that kind of runs behind the scenes throughout all of human history that comes to the surface when we in Christendom at large start to think about and celebrate the resurrection of Jesus. And I say it runs behind the scenes because it is always there, and it always has been there, and it is never less important than it was before. And it's a principle that's not only in effect in God's great scheme of redemption and the resurrection and the victory we have in Jesus, but it's also something that can be seen in almost every flavor and avenue of your life and major events of your life especially as well. I think it also can be seen even now, given the purpose for which we are gathered here today, even in the weird time that we live in, a time of civic and financial and geopolitical and racial tension, rampant cynicism. The generation of anxiety is upon us, and we're all in it. It's the generation where controlled emotional outrage is the flavor of the day. And even amidst all of this, this principle runs. And it's because that beyond the noise of the news cycle, even through this week and culminating in today, millions of people are beholding the reality that Jesus did come, that he was here in the flesh, that he is the Son of God, and that he subversively, surprisingly, yet emphatically turned the entire world upside down. How did he turn the world upside down? He kept saying that he had to die and be raised to fulfill all righteousness, to fulfill the will of the Father. And so he did, and he was. And everyone is wrestling with that and soaking in the fact that Jesus had to die to be resurrected to the saving of many souls and his elevation to the right hand at the throne of God. And what's more is that he himself says that no one could take his life from him, but that he willingly laid it down. And we all grapple with this moment now as we even celebrate in this moment. And the accounts that we just read in the scriptures this morning make it even more difficult for us to wrap our minds around this moment, because what is clear, that though this was the will of God and the perfect choice of God, that there were some very poor choices made by people all along the way. And how could those bad choices be made? And why did it have to be this way? And what does it mean for every single one of us? As we celebrate the beauty and the glory and the power of the resurrection, we find ourselves wondering, God, why did it even have to be this way? Why did it go down like this? And I want you to stop and take a look at your life for a moment. And this is what I mean when I say the principle is in effect through all the ages and it's coursing through the background at all times and all places. Stop and think about your life. You've experienced it too. When I look back at my life, as short as it has been thus far on the grand scale, even though now I have to admit I'm not really that wise beyond his years guy, I'm just an amount of years that people see now. You lose that along the way. I can see even in the scheme of my life this emerging reality, and that's that there's a deep longing and desire that overrides all others. If you could pinpoint the one desire that undergirds all of your other desires, the thing that's underneath everything that you want and you hope for and you aspire to, what would you say that is? There's this thing inside of us, I believe, that desperately wants to be chosen. There's this thing inside of us that wants to be recognized and known and acknowledged and valued by the people and and the entities around us. And even more than wanting to be acknowledged, we want to be not just chosen, we want to be desired. Isn't that what we really secretly fear? Isn't underneath of most of your anxiety and insecurity the suspicion that you're not desirable, you're not worth it, and because you're not desirable, worth it, or valuable, you're not usually chosen, you're not picked, you're not committed to, and we all want to be committed to. We want jobs that will commit to us and be loyal to us. Unfortunately, that's more and more rare these days in the current market and the way that things work. We want significant others that will commit to us and be fully in on us. We want friends that will commit to us, that old 90s slang. We want ride or die people in our life, people that are there no matter what. We want that feeling, and this starts so early for us, doesn't it? Can you just go back in the Wayback Machine to like the little tables and the little water fountains that are like 2 feet off the floor? Like, this is where it actually really starts. I was having this conversation with my friend that I referenced the other day, and we were talking about this, and he said this goes all the way back to him being in gym class. And we've all been in gym class before at some point, right? Do you guys remember gym class? Anyone like gym class? Anyone hate gym class? No one wants to admit they don't like gym class. I know why you hate gym class. Can I show you why you hated gym class or why you suspected that you didn't like gym class? Here's what happens in gym class. People choose up teams in gym class, right? Especially if you're on the playground at recess, or maybe not even gym class, just when you were out hooping or you were playing pickup football or stickball or whatever you were playing back in the day. And when you go to pick up teams, it's a moment where, for the first time, kids are going to experience anxiety. And here's why they're going to experience anxiety. Jacob, I need you for just a second. Come on up here. So last time I used Jacob, he was mad because he didn't get to defend himself in front of everybody. So now we're going to put him up here. Jacob also was mad that I said his real name last time. So for the intent and purposes of this illustration, your name is Robbie. Okay. Is there a Robbie in here? One? Well, you're not really Robbie. You go by like Alex and Robert. You go by like 7 names. So I'm using Robbie. No one's allowed to be offended if you have a Robbie that's a relative. This is Robbie. When you start choosing up, no matter what you're playing, let's say dodgeball. You dodgeball? Does he look like he could sling it? Oh my goodness. Do you know how much power comes from a lat like that? Okay, so this Robbie, and you start to get chosen up. And you know what happens as soon as you start to choose teams? You start to wonder, well, who's gonna be first? Hopefully it's me, probably not me, especially if you don't feel like you're athletically inclined. And then immediately what pops into your head is, well, I don't want to be last, as long as I'm not last. And then you finally get down to the last 2. Anyone had an experience like this? It's already mortifying. You already hate this moment. But you're like, at least I'll get picked before Robbie. Robbie eats glue. Robbie has like paper in his mouth and all the weird stuff he's been doing. Robbie has safety scissors way too long. Robbie's most athletic achievement is probably when he bounced off the floor when he was dropped as a baby. This is Robbie. There's no way they're gonna pick Robbie before you. And then you hear the words, I guess I got Robbie. And you're on a team, but you weren't chosen. And finally you realized that for all of Robbie's glue-eating, mouth-breathing face, standing next to you, he must look like Jacob Munoz. And not only are you on a side, but you're only on a side because they were stuck with you, not because they chose you. Robbie, thank you for letting me choose you this morning.
Started off
yeah.
I'm already standing again.
This team that chose Robbie has decided that rather than picking you, they would rather have to forego the pleasure of hurling dodgeballs right at Robbie's face. And back when I grew up in the 90s, you could still get out by a headshot. I think it's soft now. Like that's the lesson you only have to learn once. You get pinged one time, you won't get hit in the head again. That's what my coach used to tell me. I want you to think in your head. It's a funny example. But isn't that the worst feeling in the world? To be passed over like that? To not be picked? To not be chosen? There are some people in this room or some people that will watch this at some point in the future, maybe live right now, who had a moment like that. And because they experienced that moment, they made a declaration right there: I will never play a sport again, because this is not for me if this is how it feels. And then there are other people who said, I will never feel this way again. So the next time we line up, I'm coming for everybody's heads. I don't care if they throw me out of class. I will be picked first and out last. And it has fueled the way you carried yourself ever since then. I'm probably speaking to somebody's today. This feeling of not being chosen is something that we internalize. The choices that other people make about us and our desirability and our value mean something very deep to our hearts. And that fear of not being chosen will metastasize into a crippling fear and a suspicion that the reason that we're never chosen, the reason we're not desired, the reason why we're not considered valuable by our peers or anybody else is because we are at the bottom, not actually worth it. And that takes us to a dark place in the Gospel of Matthew and Mark that I want to sit with you today. And you might be wondering how this connects, but I promise you're going to see how this has everything to do with what Jesus has done for you and me. Turn with me to Mark chapter 14. We're going to look at this one more time. Jesus is praying in the garden. Jesus has foretold of a betrayal that is coming. Part of it has already happened. Judas has gone away. He's on his way even now, but they're in the Garden of Gethsemane in verse 32. And it says they went to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to the disciples, sit here while I pray. And he took with him Peter and James and John, the sons of Zebedee, and he began to be greatly distressed and troubled. It says this again in Matthew's account of what is happening. And I want to stop right there because I think we speed past it too much. See, something is happening to Jesus even now in this moment. The language is very specific. It says that he began to be filled with great sorrow. Something happened to Jesus when he went into the garden to pray and took the three of his inner circle with him that had not happened to him before. Something began to happen. Something began to come down on him that he had not experienced to this point. Something began to happen that is so strong that Scripture says he will begin to sweat drops of blood. What begins here in the garden is so heavy that it literally puts Jesus' physical body into shock. He says, I feel like I'm dying even now. So we read it in old language, I'm sorrowful even to death. What that means, directly translated, is I feel like I am dying right now. That's what he says to the people that are closest to him. And we say, yeah, we knew, he knew what was coming, and this is probably why he feels this way. But you remember, Jesus has predicted what has to happen from the very beginning. He's been telling his disciples, this is what I must suffer. He knows intellectually what's happening. But you see, Jesus in this moment is now feeling the beginning of judgment coming down on him. The way that you can picture this is that Jesus is, as it were, at the door of the great and fiery furnace. And that furnace burns with what Jesus refers to as the cup. When he's praying to the Father, let this cup pass from me. And it seems like weird imagery, but if you know, the Old Testament prophets are constantly talking about the cup of wrath, the cup of justice, the cup of judgment. Are you able to drink the cup that I'm going to drink? Jesus says to the disciples, he knows that he's talking about this cup. It's the very same. He's standing at the door in front of the cup that brings the justice of God. And why is this significant? It's significant because for the first time, Jesus is truly alone. The way the text reads in all the accounts is as if he goes into the garden and finds himself in a place very different from what he's ever experienced before. There's a darkness, there is a weight, there is a dread. In one of the accounts, it says that an angel came to minister to him, and that might not seem significant. It might seem like a cheat code, but I would ask you this question. Think about it with me. What good would an angel coming to comfort you be if you're used to being comforted directly by the Father? If there's an angel there to comfort him, it means that for the first time, Jesus goes in to pray, and he picks up the line to the throne room of God, and there's nobody on the other end. He's truly alone for the first time. He is now already before one mocking jeer, Before one kiss, before one punch, before one whip, one swing of the cat o' nine tails, one verdict, one lash, one nail, he is already experiencing the weight of judgment. He is already experiencing utter separation from God. Jesus is in a frightening, suffocating darkness, the darkness that we all deserve. And to Jesus' experience on this earth, this is new. And yes, it is significant. Because I would submit to you this morning, this is where it could have all fallen apart. Under this stress, in this darkness, Jesus alone, truly alone, the disciples asleep at the wheel with him. And it's just him and the cup, him and the voice of the enemy, him and what stands before him. Jesus at the door of the furnace, feeling the heat and staring directly into the flame that he must walk directly into on all our behalf. And the crazy part is he could leave right now and nobody would know. Everyone that matters is asleep. He could slip out the back of the garden right now. He could live to fight another day. He could go out of Jerusalem by the cover of night, rally the band of thousands that follow him all the way from Gentile territory through Galilee, and come with a legion of angels along the other side, and there would be nothing they could do to stop him. This is the moment where the decision to do what needs to be done is actually made. Once Jesus is in custody, you're already at the game. Once he's on the cross, there's no going back now, there's no coming down. But here in the dark, while your system is in shock, with those who should be with you, sleeping on you at the hour of your greatest need, you could slip away and fight another day. And so Jesus prays, and while his body is already in rebellion and his system is fragged with shock, he says to the Lord, "Nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done." So I have a hard question. What would make a man stay under these circumstances? What would make Jesus stay? After all, he stays at great cost, infinite cost, as it's already been said so eloquently this morning. He has, from before the foundations of the earth, counted this cost, but in this moment, the enemy means to make him recount it right now. What must it have been like for Jesus in the garden in this moment with nobody on the other end of the line? And the serpent there in the garden, like he was in the first garden we read about in Genesis, whispering in his ear, "Jesus, look at this mess. Look what you've gotten yourself into. Look at all this ugliness and brokenness. Look at this violence in the world around you. Are you sure this is what you want to do, Jesus?" And that might seem like hyperbole as you think about Jesus' situation. Think about your situation right now. Think about our situation right now. Take in the world around you. I don't say this often, but today it's appropriate. I need you to turn off the news 364 days a year, but on day 365, I need you to open the news and see kids stabbing each other at track meets. I need you to open the news and see people shooting each other up on college campuses. I need you to open the news and see that we have no idea how to have civil discourse and get to the bottom of the problems with our society. I want you to open the news and see that everybody is taking advantage of everybody financially in every way. I want you to open the news and realize you can't tell what is true, what is right and is wrong, and you are filled with panic and anxiety about the way the world is going. And I want you to take that and I want you to boil it down into this moment where Jesus carries all of that even 2,000 years before. He has all of this before him. How could you deal with this weight? Do you see how heavy that is? How hopeless are you if you allow all of that to permeate your mind and your spirit right now? How hopeless would the moment be for Jesus sitting in Gethsemane with the weight of the world, the brokenness of the world, the sin of the world on his shoulders and multiplied across the centuries from beginning to end? Take it all in. All that has been, all that has grieved the heart of God, all that is to come, all they're about to do to you, Jesus. Do you sense how incomprehensibly heavy the weight of that sin is? Do you see how someone could be brought to sweating drops of sweat mingled with blood? Do you see, more importantly, how heavy our sin is? How heavy your sin is? And that's not all the cost that's been counted for the beginning of the world. There's also the justice and judgment of God that is beginning to rain down. And with each torrent, drops of sweat mingled with blood. It's not just the weight of the sin, it's the gravity of the judgment it incurs. The fires of justice are breaking out around Jesus right now. He knows what is physically coming, yes, but it's also what's being dispensed psychologically and spiritually already in this moment, alone in the dark, in despair, in the agony of loneliness. Why would he stay? Why would you stay? Here's the part that really gets me. It's subtle, but it comes in threes, and that means we're supposed to pay attention to it. It comes out most perfectly in Matthew's account of how this happens. You see, it says in Matthew chapter 26 that he began to be sorrowful and troubled in verse 37. But it says that in verse 39, after he went a little while, he fell on his face and prayed. He comes back to the disciples after one time praying in verse 40, and he finds them sleeping, and he says, Peter, what are you doing, man? You're the one who said you would never betray me, you would never desert me. You can't even stay awake. One time he goes in, he goes back and prays again. Tells them, you couldn't watch with me 1 hour. Watch and pray that you don't enter temptation. In verse 42, for the second time, he goes away and prays the same words. And he comes back, and guess what? Peter and James and John, the three, never mind the rest of the apostles and disciples there, all asleep on him again. And he goes in a third time and prays again. And he comes out once more. And he finds them sleeping yet again. You see, this is the hour of Jesus' greatest need. 3 times, those who he dedicated his life and ministry to serving are sleeping on him. Everything that he has worked for 3 times, everything that he has sacrificed for 3 times, the ones that he has chosen, that he knows God has given him and granted him, are asleep on him. They saw him heal. They saw him feed thousands. They saw him walk on water. They saw him cast out demons. They saw him raise the dead, and they are asleep when he needs them the most. In this critical moment, for all of that ministry and 3 years of life and discipleship, they have nothing to offer him. They have nothing for him. If you don't think that's a picture of us, I need you to seriously consider what's playing out in this narrative. But this is why I think this is Satan's best chance to change the course of events. Because if you think about this, every single time Jesus comes out of the depths of the garden, hoping that he's not as alone as he feels, he is forced to realize and confront the reality that he is. Here he is at the test, at the face of the furnace, and you have Satan in his ear saying, hey, Jesus, look at him. Is this who you're going to die for? This is it? This is the best they have to give you? This is what all this is going to be for? Look at him. Hey, Jesus, I got to ask you, are they really worth it? Are they worth it? Hey, Jesus, I need you to look forward to a weirdly calculated Easter Sunday in April in 2025. I want you to see them sitting in those pews with all their insecurities. Even though what you're going to do for them, they still refuse to walk in your power and your peace. They fought with each other on the way here. They actually can't wait to leave. Jesus, for this? Are they worth it? Before you discount how incredible that reality is, I want you to consider how unworth it you probably feel deep down. Be honest as we walked through that. All your insecurities, all your fears, all the things you struggle to accept forgiveness for, they're all because deep down you probably don't even believe you're worth this. But that's what you say. That's what the devil says. What really matters is what Jesus says. So how does Jesus respond to this accusation with the weight of the world on his shoulders? He comes out and he says, indeed, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. He says, I know you're trying. I know. And for me, it's enough to go through with this. Yeah, it's worth it. So deep is Jesus' love for you. So deep is his conviction that even here in the dark, when he could slip away while we all figuratively sleep, he is unflinching, he is resolute, he is indomitable. He is willing to be destroyed by the fire so that he would not have to let the fire destroy us. This is why he is Lord. This is why he is King. This is why he alone is worthy. And how incomprehensible is it that he says through his actions and his deeds, yes, they are worth it all. He says to you, yes, you are worth it all. He says, finally, I choose you. But I have a question. How, Jesus? Why, Jesus? This doesn't make sense to me, Jesus, given all that we've just discussed. And before I answer that, I want to share an epiphany that I've had with you guys. I want to move us forward to chapter 27, the second scripture that we looked at this morning, and it's the trial of Jesus, and Pilate has him before the mob. It took me a long time to recognize, family, that Jesus' choice in the garden is really just a great reversal of the choice that mankind has been making ever since we fell in the garden. And this encounter with Pilate actually helps me explain it, what's going on with the crowd and Barabbas, beginning in verse 15. I'll read it for you. It says, at the feast, the governor was accustomed to release the crowd, any one prisoner whom they wanted, and they had a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. Barabbas was a known insurrectionist and murderer. So when they had gathered, Pilate said to them, who do you want? Who are you going to pick? Who are you going to choose? Do you want Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ? For he knew that it was out of envy they had delivered him up. And besides, while he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, have nothing to do with this righteous man, for I have suffered much because of him today in a dream. Which do you want me to release to you? And they said, Barabbas. And what shall I do with Jesus? And they said, crucify him. Listen. Jesus has been betrayed, taken without a fight, put through 2 rigged shams of a trial at the hands of the religious leaders, and he's delivered to Pilate, and he is condemned to be put to death. And Pilate, not finding fault in him, goes back on a tradition that he wants to leverage to bargain with these Jewish leaders, and he offers them this known revolutionary instead. And it's Passover, and the crowd has a choice, and they can choose Barabbas, a convicted murderer and insurrectionist, or they could choose Jesus. And amidst the howling mob, stirred into a bloodlust by the corrupting envy of a shadow priesthood and a sham of a trial, Jesus is passed over, given over, not chosen, and laid under the judgment of a holy and righteous God. Now I need you to come back to this text and really lean into what's happening here. In verse 17, when they had gathered, Pilate said, who do you want? What is happening here? And as I reread it, it just leaps out to me plain as day. It's crazy to me when I think about this because I've realized that almost all of human history is really bound up in this moment. Think about this moment with me. You have Pilate in this audacious offer on this absurd stage of history. Because between Jesus and Barabbas, there's no comparison. One deserves everything that is coming his way. The other is innocent. One has taken life, and the other, everywhere he goes, he has brought life and given life. And it's convicting to me because the scripture says that all of us have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And that means I don't get to distance myself from what is happening in this moment. It means that I am right here, that we're all bound up in this, that this guy Barabbas represents us all, that he is us, he is me, he is unworthy to be released. He deserves what is going to be put on Jesus. But it's the choice that it represents that gets me this morning, because the crowd cries, give us Barabbas, and this murderer goes free. And then I remember the words of Jesus in John 15, and they actually cut me pretty deeply. I can't get rid of them, because Jesus told his disciples on that occasion in John 15, you did not choose me, but I chose you. You did not choose me, but I chose you. And as I read that, I find that now I know what Jesus knew. Here's why. Because if Barabbas is us, all this does is it represents humanity choosing itself over Jesus. This is our history. This is the very crux of the matter. This is what is at the bottom. This happened in one garden a long time ago, and it's happening in another garden right now. It's us in the garden choosing the lie and choosing to believe the character assassination that the serpent brought against God, that God didn't have our best interest at heart, that he was keeping something good from us, and that the best thing we could do was take matters into our own hands. It's us at Babel exalting ourselves in our pride. It's us doing what was right in our own eyes all through the period of the judges. It is us choosing to go back to slavery in Egypt over freedom. It's us refusing not to go into the promised land. It's us choosing the gods of the nations over Yahweh. It's us sending Uriah to the front lines to be died and killed in a conspiracy, murdered in cold blood. It's us killing the prophets. It's us claiming that Christ didn't actually come in the flesh. It's us keeping the word away from the common man and chaining it to a lectern in a language that he doesn't even understand. It's us taking the book of Exodus out of the Bible so that we can keep our slaves. It's us fighting to keep segregation in the church even way behind the time when we said it was over. It's us choosing to make politics our idol, and that's the way that we're supposed to make a difference in the world. It's us choosing to divide over carpets and drapes and pews or chairs or all the little things that we decide to place our identity in. This is us all the way through, putting our preferences above the call to unity. This is us being mad that the world does not want to come to church when Jesus told the church to go to the world. This is us being terrified that nothing is going to go back to the way we remember it when we were kids, and ignoring the fact that Jesus never promised us it was going to be that way to begin with. Barabbas is a picture of all of us over the time and epochs of history deciding to choose us instead of choosing Jesus. And at the very same time, it is a picture of Jesus choosing us over and against it all. When the crowds cried, "Crucify," it is the ultimate instance of us choosing ourselves. And while we were so blinded and consumed with our selfishness, Jesus is in the dark, choosing us from garden to grave, saying in our ears, hoping that it makes its way to our hearts, "You did not choose me, but I chose you." Paul would write about this in Ephesians early on when he says, even as he chose us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and blameless before him. And suddenly my mind is flooded with all the times God showed up in history and said, "I have chosen you." That goes all the way back to Abraham and Moses and Gideon and Joseph, all the way back to Jeremiah, and from Esther to Saul and the whole nation of Israel. He chose us from the beginning, from the cross to us all. He's chosen you from the beginning. And what I'm bringing you to this morning is just to stop and think at this fulcrum, this moment where everything changed forever. He has continually chosen you again and again and again. It is what your heart has desired and your soul has needed more than anything else. And the question you have to ask yourself, have I chosen him? Back in Gethsemane, every time Jesus chooses us, it communicates an unwavering belief that somehow, despite how dark it was and how it looked, this was going to be worth it. And the people that I'm going to do this for are worth it too. And every time we choose ourselves over Jesus, we communicate that what he's asking of us and what he's offering us is not worth it to us. Please don't speed past that thought, because it holds the answer to the question I asked earlier. How is it going to be worth it? Why is it going to be worth it? Why is it worth it, Jesus? How is it worth it, Jesus? In the book of Hebrews, the author says that Jesus would endure this cross, despising the shame, but that he did it looking forward to the joy set before him. You see, the joy set before him meant that Jesus knew something. There was something he knew that allowed him to see beyond what he was going through. And for all of the anxiety I stirred up in everyone 10 minutes ago with the way that the world is, there is something Jesus knew that allowed him to endure what he was going through, and you're going to need to know it too if you want to get through what we are going through. Are you hearing me this morning, church? Here is what he knew. He was fully convinced that it was worth it. The answer is found in a statement that Jesus said many times in many ways, and we couldn't quite grasp it yet, but it's never more plain than in a conversation he had with a woman named Martha. You guys remember Mary and Martha, disciples of Jesus? Well, on one occasion, Jesus' good friend Lazarus has actually died. And when Jesus gets there, they're all very upset about what has happened. And they believe, hey, Jesus, if you had been here, this wouldn't have happened. My brother would still be alive. They're probably right about that, but they approach this in two very different ways. Jesus responds to Martha just by saying this. He says, "I am the resurrection and the life. Do you believe?" On that occasion, as he's comforting her after the death of Lazarus, he's about to actually walk and call Lazarus back out of the grave. And he looks at this woman, Martha, and he says, I'm about to show you a new reality, but do you believe? I'm about to show you something you can't fathom. Do you believe that I am the Son of God who has come into the world? Do you believe that I am the one from heaven who has come to this planet to die and rise again? Do you believe this? And he asked this of Martha, and he asked this of us all, because unless you believe that he is the Son who has come into the world, you don't have access to the answer that you need today. But if you believe, as Martha responds, yes, I do, then you have this. Jesus knew that all of this that he was going through was going to be worth it, because Jesus doesn't just merely offer a consolation prize at the end of life. He offers a resurrection. He knew not only that regardless of what he was going through, that he was actually going to get up just like he was going to get Lazarus up, but he also knew that once he was resurrected, it would mean that someday all of you who believe on him are going to be resurrected too. I need you to hold tightly to that. Paul writes in his letters that if Christ was not resurrected, then we're the most pitiful of fools. If Christ did not get up, then we have no reason to be here this morning. But if Christ did get up, it means that you have the hope that you are going to get up too. And what do I mean that this is a resurrection and not a consolation? It means that Jesus doesn't say to you, church, he doesn't say to Martha, church, if you trust me, I'll take you away from all of this pain. He doesn't say, someday, if you believe in me, I'm going to take you to a paradise where you won't even be able to remember all of the bad things that happened here. No, that's not what Jesus promises. That's selling it short. He's promising a full-blown resurrection. What does that mean? What's a resurrection? It means that he got up bodily. It means that he got back everything that was taken from him and then some. It means that Jesus says, I've come not to take you out of the earth to heaven, so it just kind of makes you feel better about everything that's happening here and you had to go through. No, I've come to bring heaven to earth and for you to walk in something even greater than that, where I will make everything new, including you. Jesus' promise in his resurrection is not consolation, because he's promising to give you back everything that was lost, but 1,000,000 times better than it was when you had it before. The power of Jesus' future goes beyond just a consolation prize to make you feel better at the end of days. The power of the new heavens and new earth, and the joy and the wholeness of health and the newness that will come, the tears that will be gone, the suffering and death and disease that will not exist, the power of all creation, new creation that envelops everything, that everything is not just going to be made better, everything is going to be given back and made right. Have you ever had a really bad dream, church? A dream where you lost someone that was important to you. Are there any women in the audience today, for a moment of levity, that watch way too much true crime documentaries? I am married to one. She has a lot of bad dreams. I can't prove this, but I suspect that the reason why she has dreams that random people break down our doors and shoot us for some reason is because she's always listening to true crime. I had a conversation with Maggie, my wife, just the other day. We were talking about this and what the resurrection actually means. I said, when you have those dreams, when you lose someone important to you, it's one of the worst feelings ever. But then when you wake up and you realize that you haven't actually lost them, how does it make you feel? And she said, it makes me even happier than I was before. I actually love them even more than I loved them before. I'm relieved in a way that actually makes better my existence now than it was before I endured the thought of losing them. And we talked about how the promise of the resurrection, what Jesus does, is exactly like this, but with your entire life. I want you to think about how much you love your loved ones right now. I want you to think about how much you enjoy the sunshine. I want you to think about how much the beauty of God's creation has gotten into your heart and your soul so deeply that you are scared to leave it. And the scariest thing about life is watching it gradually being chipped away day after day, and there's nothing you can do about it. The reason why the resurrection matters, the reason why it's going to be worth it, the reason why Jesus endured what he went through is because he knows in the resurrection you get it all back. You get it all back, but even better. When Jesus comes back, he still has his scars. When Jesus comes back, he comes back fully made of everything that he was and everything that he did and the decisions that he made. When Jesus comes back, he doesn't come back without the memory of who he is and what it took to get there. And when we come back, the scripture says that we will be like him. It means that everything bad that you experience in your life, every fear, every nightmare, every pain, every tragedy, you get back but redeemed and unmade as if it never even happened, but somehow more beautiful because it did. Do you know what Jesus Christ is saying when he says, I am the resurrection and the life? He's not saying, I'm just going to give you a nice place that you can look forward to. He's saying, I'm going to make it all come untrue. And even the most hurtful things you've experienced will become glorious in the power of my resurrection. You're going to be glorified as Jesus is glorified. Can I just we got eggs to hunt. I could take a few more seconds. Guys, this is so important. This is so important. Stop thinking about the resurrection as an ethereal song service in the sky where you're just like kind of floating and you don't really know what it is. You just know you'd rather be there than the alternative. So that's selling yourself way short. What does it really mean for you to be glorified? Think about this. You will be as he is. That means that when you are resurrected, church, you will be exactly as God originally planned for you to be. Not broken anymore. How powerful is that? Anyone in the room have anxiety? Anxiety about raising a hand so people know you have anxiety? I need you to lean with me on this, guys. This is how wild the promise of the resurrection actually is. It means that one day you're going to get up and you're not going to have it. Can you even imagine what a day without anxiety would be like? Those of you that have it are like, no, but I'm afraid I'll have anxiety that I don't have my anxiety that I'm used to having. Can you imagine what it will be like to not wake up and believe that you're not unique, not special, not smart, not pretty, not beautiful, not valuable, not skinny enough? Can you imagine what it would actually be like to just be you as you deep down have suspected you should have been and could have been but aren't? Can you imagine what that's actually going to be like? And then you get to share it with all the other people that God has made new too. Do you know what Jesus is promising? Do you see why he would say that it's worth it? Jesus in the garden is banking on that day when everyone gets up and he looks at us and he says, I knew you could be like this. Your spirit was willing, but your flesh is weak. But now I've taken care of that. That is the promise of the resurrection. The resurrection means that our wounds become scars and our scars become stories, and those stories will become God's glories. Church, do you believe this? Do you really believe it? You probably think, I want to believe it. You got to believe and know that Jesus is the one who came from heaven, that he's the incarnate Son of God, that he died on the cross so that we could be forgiven, and that someday God is going to destroy evil and suffering without destroying us because of what Jesus did, that he endured the suffering and the death so we could participate in this because he knew all along it was going to be worth it, and because he has said you individually are worth it. Do you believe the gospel this morning, church? I need you to know that this is true. I suspect there are a lot of people in this room who intellectually believe the gospel and you believe the resurrection happened, but you haven't yet realized what that actually means. You can know what Jesus knew, and you can know that it's all going to be worth it. And that includes every single one of you. You did not choose me, but I chose you. Your resurrected King and Lord is worth it. And so this morning, church, I'm going to ask you this day forward, choose him. Choose him instead of choosing yourself. I'm going to ask you to believe what Jesus believes. I'm going to ask you to put others before yourself. I'm going to ask you to put God over self. I'm going to ask you to remember the cross when it gets dark. I'm going to ask you to finally choose him because he endured all of this to choose you. And I promise you that what he endured for you and his resurrection prove that it is definitely going to be worth it, and it is already now. We are worth it because he is worth it. Church, do you feel worthy today? The cross proves that Jesus is worth it, and the resurrection proves that Jesus believes that you're worth it. So if you are worn down this Easter Sunday and you are feeling hopeless, this resurrection proves nothing could be further from the truth. You can trust him. You can choose him today. You can keep the faith. And I can promise you, it's going to be worth it. I think it would be worth it for you to take a step towards Jesus today if that's something you haven't done or something you need to do again. And we would be honored to celebrate that step with you. If we can serve you, please come as we stand and sing.